This is a podcast about our lived experience, which unfortunately includes infant death and subsequent mental health struggles. Please take good care of yourself and only listen if this content feels safe for you right now. We'll still be here when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Judith.
And I'm Alina. We both lost babies to SIDS in winter 2021.
In the throes of grief, I reached out to a stranger on the internet and our friendship was born.
In the years since, we've been working hard to survive, rebuild, and navigate the continual challenges that have come our way, including divorce,
Job loss,
dating while bereaved,
moving multiple times,
health scares,
pregnancy and parenting a living child,
starting new jobs, and so much more.
We are tired.
Happily ever after is out of the question for us, but this podcast documents our journeys to happier ever after because we believe life after loss is worth living.
So join us as we laugh, cry until we laugh.
Welcome to As Long as I'm Living podcast.
We're so glad you're here.
Today's podcast episode is sponsored by Lily's mom, Christine. Lily is a beautiful little girl who brought so much love into her mom's life. Christine says the days she spent with her in the hospital were some of the best days of her life, filled with love despite the sadness of having to say goodbye. Christine shared with us that she decided to become a single mother by choice, and which is so brave, by the way. She took 9 months of fertility treatments before she got pregnant with Lily, which was, I can imagine, just the best news ever. She, unfortunately, at 33 weeks and 5 days, they heard those heartbreaking words, "There's no heartbeat." Oh, gosh. I'm so sorry, Christine.
First of all, Christine, I would love to hear from you about what it was like grieving the loss of Lily as a single mom by choice. I think that's super interesting, and I'd be curious to hear.
Yes, no kidding. Well, Christine has an Instagram account, loss_SMC, single mom by choice, where she's connecting with other lost moms and sharing her journey. So we're certainly going to go follow her there. Anyone who's interested in Christine's journey, wants to connect with her, or especially if you yourself are a single parent by choice, I'm sure Christine would love to connect with you. It's loss_SMC. We're releasing this sponsored episode today, December 16th. This is the day that baby Lily was born. So it sounds like, from what Christine said, they found out Lily had passed away on the 15th, but she was born on the 16th. So Christine makes a big effort for this day to be a happy day. So we are going to send all the happiness, happy birthdays to baby Lily, and happy birthday to Christine.
And as a fellow Sagittarius, I know that Lily would have been sparkly and shiny and an adventurer, and she would have had a big personality like fellow Sagittarius Judith and Taylor Swift.
And Aiden.
Another Sagittarius. So welcome to the little Sagittarius family, baby Lily. And we'll be thinking of you this week.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. He seems very normal.
Yes, I am, and I'm not a celebrity. 5,000 followers is not a celebrity.
Well, we're really excited to have you on because, like I said...
Well, hold on. When you say $5,000 is not a celebrity, it depends on what size pond you're talking about, because we have less than that, but I do feel like we're celebrities in the dead baby space. That's admittedly very small pond.
Yeah, Dr. Green, you don't know this, but if you were to go to a dead baby memorial walk, we're
recognized. People are like, "Oh my God," Aiden and Quinn.
In the support groups, we're mentioned in support groups across the country.
Incredible. Well, I am not mentioned in dermatology circles. You need 1 million.
Yeah. You need 1 million followers.
Yeah, 1 million followers in dermatology circles to be.
I think that's good for the state of the humanness. That means that more people want to talk about dermatology than they do dead babies. And I think that's
right. But so we have a very special guest today, and I think some of you are going to hear who we have on the podcast today and be like, "Huh?" And some of you are going to be like, "Wait, this is amazing," because I have to tell you, this is the type of niche grief content that we are here to bring to our listeners, because everybody and their mother on their grief podcast is talking about their loss story, their blah, blah, blah. Listen, we do that too. But I want to know why I have this wrinkle across my forehead. My I think other people do too.
I think you hide it on Zoom well.
Well, here's another thing I'll say. There's a few things I'll say. First of all, Dr. Green, I want you to introduce yourself, of course, to our
Yes.
audience. And the second thing I want to say is that we did an Instagram live a couple of weeks ago, Alina and I did, and we said, here are some of the people we have coming up in the pipeline. We spoke about other interviews we're doing. Everybody wanted to hear about the wrinkles. Okay, so
On a grief podcast.
on a grief, I'm telling you, this is this is like a real this is a real phenomenon that we all go through. So, Dr. Green, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? You can say all of your titles and MDs and LMNOPs, and we'll be very impressed.
I'm not going to. That's not my nature.
Okay.
But I can say Larry Green, Lawrence Green, MD, clinical professor of dermatology at George Washington University School of Medicine in Washington, D.C.
That's very wonderful. That's impressive.
And you were on our podcast today because Judith basically accosted you, asking you about her grief wrinkles, right? Am I wrong on that? Something like that.
I feel like that's what happened. I saw you.
I didn't see you at Cholo this weekend. Where were you?
I was like with my daughter, but I was there. Don't worry, I was there.
Okay.
I was downstairs. I was getting lollipops, doing the whole things. But I saw him and I was talking about other things because we were part of a class for a little bit and together. And I found out he was a dermatologist. And when I found out he was a dermatologist, I was like, I have to ask you what happens to the body when you're grieving. And we actually have a lot of questions. One of the questions that we got, and we could just start here, is biologically, does grieving do the same thing to your body as stress? Is it just a type of stress? Or stress, your body responds to stress in one way and then like this intense grief heartache another?
So that depends. So, as far I'm a dermatologist, so I can't speak to everything grief related, but I know on the skin and the hair especially, long-term stress is not necessarily, it's bad. It's bad for your immune system. And I know that's bad for your body in terms of longevity. But a sudden shock, unexpected, does do specific things to the body's immune system where we react in an uncharacteristic way, I would say. So let's say you have an unexpected death in the family, and a close family member unfortunately passes away or goes to the hospital unexpectedly, or a child or someone very, very close. That can cause something called a telogen effluvium in the skin. And that's a fancy word for hair loss.
Wait, what?
A telogenic fluvium?
Yeah, telogen effluvium. 2 words.
Telogen effluvium.
Yeah, but it's a stress response where the body's growing hairs shut down. And we can get into other responses too, and especially in terms of what stress can do to chronic disease, because Judith and I talked about that as well. But when you have, in terms of grieving, a really specific insult has a very characteristic change in dermatology to your hair, and your hair stops growing. So the growing phase of the hair sort of shuts down. You have more hairs in the resting stage.
All over your body or just on your head?
Well, you see it specifically in your scalp. Now, you wouldn't notice my scalp, but in someone who has hair. Yes. Because I have more hairs than it's called the catagen stage, and and then I have some scarring eventually. But that's a whole nother issue.
Dr. Green is bald. That's why we're chuckling.
That's a whole nother thing to get through.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. If some sudden shock happens to you, and I'm imagining like it could be a house fire and your house burns down, right? Or it could be like, or if you like lose a limb suddenly, or like something like that, like a bad sudden. It doesn't have to be as a loss. It could just be like something sudden and bad. Your body, like immediately, your hair stops growing new hairs.
Right. Your hair, not completely, but the majority of growing hairs there's less majority of growing hairs, and more hairs go in a resting stage,
which means they fall out.
Well, they're hairs that are in a resting stage, and they fall out easier, I should say. So that's you have more telogen hairs than anagen hairs. Anagen hairs are growing hairs, telogen hairs are resting. So you have more hairs telogen, and then you see it as a sudden hair shedding.
So they go in the resting stage, and I have a very specific niche question to the baby loss space.
I do too.
There's also a phenomenon after you give birth where you shed a whole bunch of hair around like 3, 4, 5 months postpartum.
It's the same thing.
And so that's the same thing. So you're saying the shock, the birth, all of that is the same type of thing. So for Judith and I, our sons died right at that same stage where we were already losing a bunch of hair. So we were bald.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Or we have a lot of people who've experienced stillbirth.
Yeah.
Or people who've had to terminate for medical reasons. So it's maybe a little earlier, maybe at 21 weeks, 22 weeks, 23 weeks pregnant. All of these things you're saying, it's like they're going to have twice as much loss of hair, or is it the same amount?
Well, pregnancy brings hair loss in itself because it's a stress on the immune system. That's another issue. But a telogen effluvium, yes, a stillbirth or a loss of a baby. Also, COVID. When people get over COVID, it's a shock. It's a very hard illness to get over. And the immune system, it's still shock to the immune system. So that also causes a telogen effluvium.
I did not know this.
I didn't know this either.
Yeah, not all COVID. I mean, just sometimes.
Yeah, if it's a serious.
Yeah, it depends how it affects you.
Yeah. Okay, so your hair enters this resting stage, which, as you're saying, means it's not actively growing and it falls out easier, right?
Yeah, and if you want to know if that's happening, you just go to your dermatologist. We can do a hair pull and we can check your telogen hair count or biopsies. There's ways of sometimes even history if it's that obvious.
But so, what would be the reason to do that test? Is there something you can do to fix it, or is it kind of just you got to wait it out?
The answer is yes and yes. Usually, a telogen effluvium will last 6 to 9 months from the start.
Wow.
So, and that's not because it's so bad in itself. It takes a while for the hair to grow back that you shed.
Right.
So and the hair doesn't grow that quickly. So the body sets itself and fixes itself sort of quickly, but the hair has to grow out. So, and that's why it takes 6 to 9 months. But there are things we can do. I mean, we use vitamins. There's vitamins that we sell in the office that help hair grow.
Like biotin type things?
And biotin doesn't really help hair.
Oh.
That is not what the Instagrammers say.
Yeah, by the way, you know what? Google doesn't say that. I mean, I'm sure Google does say that, but I'm just saying the Instagrammers say that biotin helps hair. It doesn't?
You're looking at the wrong Instagram. My Instagram will not say that.
And what is your Instagram for anybody who wants to follow you?
Oh, it's Dr. Doctor, then dot, like you would see after Dr. Lawrence, Lawrence, Green, one word. So, and that's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, same in all the three.
All the things.
Right.
Yeah. So on there, and I have some coming up too, where I talk about ways to help your hair strengthen. And
excellent.
And vitamins are not going to grow your hair. Don't get me wrong. Vitamins are vitamins. Don't expect vitamins from hair growth to whatever you take them for to change anything.
Yeah.
But what they do is provide the right balance so that your hair has the right elements in there to grow. And so you have to do other things to help your hair grow. You can't just take vitamins. But vitamins provide that opportunity for hair. So you want to maximize that opportunity. That's why vitamins are important. Now, vitamins important in hair growth are selenium, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, some of the vitamin Vs, vitamin B, not V, vitamin Bs. Things like that are important. I think magnesium is a little important. There's a lot of vitamins that are useful in helping hair growth. Biotin is not one of them. In fact, people who take too much biotin it can affect your thyroid. It can have detrimental effects.
I did not know this.
So unless you're biotin deficient, if you're biotin deficient, I mean, no one really checks biotin levels, but if you're biotin deficient, it's important to have a normal biotin. But that's unusual. But biotin itself doesn't have to be in something to help hair.
Okay, so once your hair goes through this phase, so the first thing you're going to experience is some sort of hair loss when you go through a shock. But then my next question, why the gray hairs? Mm-hmm. Explain the gray hairs.
Well, let me go to the shock. The shock doesn't happen right away, by the way. It's usually a several-week period before the hair falls out. So you don't notice it until it's not like you lose a baby and then the next day you lose your hair. It's usually several weeks later.
Well, unless you lose your baby at 4 months old and you're already losing your hair postpartum.
That's a separate hair loss.
It was like a week later, I think. A couple weeks later, I realized, I was like, wait, I'm really losing a lot of hair.
It's several weeks later. So that's when you notice it. And it doesn't kick in right away. And same thing after COVID or after a death in the family. It's several weeks later. I forgot your question. There's one other thing we do besides take vitamins, and that we use things to increase blood flow to the scalp, like minoxidil.
Is that a medication?
Yeah, it's over the counter.
Oh, okay. What about like red light therapy? Is that a thing?
It is a thing. I don't think there's any good evidence to say it helps. So I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay. But it's not harmful.
Okay.
No, it's not harmful. If you want to spend your money, go ahead. But things like minoxidil and Rogaine will definitely help.
This is so interesting to me to hear from like somebody who actually knows all this stuff, because as a woman who is in her 30s, I am targeted by 10,000 Instagram accounts every single day telling me you got to wear the red light hair scalp mask and you got to put the biotin cream on your whatever. And like, to just be
you're like, no.
No.
Exactly. So this is the point. That's the problem with social media. And I actually did a podcast this morning with another dermatologist who does a podcast. And we talked about the negative influence social media has
Yes.
on the public, because you can search anything and you're not going to find someone who's necessarily credible. You have to have a specific search. So you have to search for board certified dermatologist or FAAD, which means Fellow of the American Academy of Dermatology, because otherwise you're going to get some Instagrammer who says they know something, but they're making stuff up.
And the influencers who are getting paid to sell this stuff have like 3 or 4 million followers compared to our dermatology counterparts who actually know what they're talking about, and they have 10,000 followers.
And right, and this is why. The reason is because I work for a living. I'm not a social media person, so from 8 to 6, 8 to 7 every day, I'm seeing patients and I'm calling patients and planning surgeries or whatever. I don't have time like these guys to be on social media all day and to do my Instagram. So that's why I think we can't keep up with that.
We relate to that hard, honestly. This is a hobby podcast, and we really struggle with the social media side of it.
Right. That's the problem. I mean, the people who are influencers, that's their job. This is not my job.
Right.
But it's hard to get information out to the public. So I think what people have to do is search, enter the search. You say hair loss from board certified dermatologist or something. And to get the right people to give you advice rather than a random person who's got the time to be on social media because they have nothing else to do.
Okay. So you could put the cream on it. You can do the vitamins. What else would you recommend for people who are experiencing like hair loss due to shock?
Stress.
Well, see your dermatologist. I mean, there's specific things depending on the situation that you can do as well. I mean, using Rogaine solution or foam, as well as taking specific vitamins that you can get over the counter. We sell some that we like. We like this one brand, but there's other brands. Is a general thing that everyone can do. To get more specific information, that you need to take a full history and do the exam and find out what's best for that person.
Okay.
I went to a lot of doctors after Aiden died. I went to all of the doctors.
Little bit of a hypochondriac.
I had a little hypochondriac stint, but I did not go to a dermatologist, and which is surprising because it's up my alley. It did not go until I started getting the wrinkles, which is something we can talk about.
But before we get to wrinkles.
Oh, gray hair.
The gray hair.
So gray hair, when hair grows back after an insult, and it's most commonly this happens after something called alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune type of hair loss. The hair can grow back gray often. For some reason, the pigment doesn't come back right away. It takes more time. So the hair grows before the pigment can catch up, and that's why sometimes the hair is gray.
Wait. So it can go back to being its normal color?
It can. It depends on the person. Usually after telogen effluvium, you don't get 100% of your hair back. It takes months and months. It's usually not 100%, but it can be anywhere from 70 to 100. That's just the way your hair is going to be. But in the same thing with the gray situation, sometimes the gray can go away as well.
Wait, I need to recap this to make sure I fully understand. So you're saying, like a year later, this experience happens, the shock, but then eventually you kind of regulate, like you go back to normal. Like the shock happens, the hair goes away. You regulate, the hair starts to grow back. It grows back originally maybe gray. So for that first couple of years, maybe you look particularly gray, but then it'll even back out and you'll be getting back to mostly your normal color. 70% of it will come back hair, and then an additional percentage of that will come back its normal color.
Yeah, not everyone. It just depends on how your body corrects itself.
I did not know that. Alina, did you know that?
I did not know that.
I knew your hair came back, but I thought it all came back gray forever. I thought once you go gray, you can't go back.
No, your hair can it just depends on the situation. Now, there are some people, like, those presidents, like President Obama went gray during office. That's a different issue. That's not a telogen effluvium. That's a chronic stress, day-to-day wear and tear on the immune system. And that's the stress of something else we can talk about, the stress of chronic disease.
Yes.
And what that does to aging. That really ages your body.
And that is a question that, like, we had in the question box was like, is grief, the sudden shocking loss of someone you love, different than a chronic stress? Because I will say I have definitely felt chronically stressed with grief for almost 4 years now since my son died. But I can acknowledge that it's different than those first couple of months that were really like
traumatic,
on death's door.
Right. So that depends, Alina, on how you adjust, how you personally adjust. And everyone is going to do that differently. So there's not one answer to your question.
Yeah.
But a sudden stress is different than a chronic stress. The stress of chronic disease, the stress of being overweight, the stress of being a diabetic and not treating it well enough, though that causes inflammation. And inflammation means your immune system's overhyped and over revved up. And if you have another chronic disease like Crohn's disease or colitis or psoriasis for me in the skin world, that creates a chronic stress on the immune system too. The more pressure and stress you add on the immune system, the more your body's going to age. It can't handle something else to try and right itself. There's only so much it can do. You're overwhelming it with these stressors, stresses, medical conditions,
Right.
and the body can't fix itself, and you will definitely age quicker than others. In fact, there was there's been some studies done, and I'm making part of this up because I don't remember the exact numbers, but the idea is still there, that people who have untreated psoriasis will not live as long as people who treat their psoriasis. That people who have chronic diseases have a shorter lifespan because the chronic stress on the immune system, the body can't adjust. I mean, it's too much.
But when I think about the grief that follows the loss, it's like we're talking about like a heightened state of anxiety, like a heightened state of like PTSD, of like sleeplessness, of like
Poor diet, not eating.
poor diet, not eating, not exercising.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it kind of looks like a chronic condition. I mean, do you think so or no?
No, I think agree. It's definitely a stressor on the body.
Yeah.
And exercise and good diet is something that makes less stress on your immune system.
Yeah.
Right.
When you exercise, you're helping your immune system fight everything. So same thing with eating a good diet. You know, the body wants to be in what we call homeostatic balance. It wants to be in a good, stable environment, stable place, so they can do the things that keep us alive in a normal way. And when you're doing something that's going against and revving up the immune system, it makes it more difficult to be in homeostatic balance. So, of course, you're doing this to yourself, and I'm not saying you do it to yourself. I mean, there's a lot that's going on, but the body sees it as that. If that can be stopped, and I'm not that type of doctor, through biofeedback, through ways of stress relief to get that immune system back in homeostatic balance, that's so important.
Yeah. I think what I would say to those listening, I think there are many reasons to work on healing and integrating the loss, and the fact that it will heal maybe heal your gray hairs faster is probably not top of mind. But it does sound like it's the whole package, right? So like all of this chronic stress really does weigh on the body everywhere. And obviously we're talking about it from a dermatology perspective. So we're talking hair, skin, nails, etc. But all of this is hard on your body. I think we hear a lot from people, and I've said it, Judith has said it, that we feel like we aged 10 years in 3 months.
I mean, I look at pictures of myself and I look like I've aged 10 years in 4 years.
Yes, and you may have. Yes.
So to hear you say that we are actually aging faster is not at all surprising, because that is how it feels.
Correct. And look at the presidents again, the picture of the president, not just do they go gray, they get more wrinkles. They age in office. That 4 years in office for a president, if you look at their previous 8 years, usually they don't age at the same rate. So the chronic stress certainly does take a toll on the body.
Yes.
That's not ideal.
And anything you do to minimize it, I don't know how a president can minimize it because they've got so much going on. But the same thing with someone under chronic stress. It's maybe very difficult, but it's a fact.
So if you're someone who's in the throes of grief, those first couple of years, and they're thinking to themselves, okay, well, I can't heal myself like immediately. What are some things they can do to take care of their skin and their wrinkles, or like prevent wrinkles, like while you're in the throes of it, like a bare minimum? What would you say to do to take care of your hair, skin, nails?
So let me not be so pessimistic too first.
Okay.
The body can adjust with time. If you can get over the hump, the body forgives, but it does not forget. So there's a lot to be forgiven. And if with time, you can really, really improve your skin. And especially doing other things we'll talk about in a second, you can improve your skin and your whole body and your immune system to live longer. So it's a process, and we're looking at the long haul. And the long haul is you can do a lot to forgive in that. So what you can do first, everything starts with sunscreen. That is, you don't even have to see a board-certified dermatologist for that. Everyone should be wearing sunscreen 365 days a year, whether it's winter, summer, spring, fall. Don't leave your house without a moisturizer or sunscreen on your face. And I would say for people with drier skin, moisturizer and sunscreen is very important, more than just a light sunscreen. If your skin is more oily, or acne prone, an oil-free sunscreen is sufficient. But you never want to not be prepared to go outside any time of the year. And for people with darker skin, actually, people with lighter skin too, people with darker skin should use a tinted sunscreen, because there's something in tints, in the tint, the iron oxide actually, that helps prevent the damaging effects of visible light. The light up we have in here can affect and cause pigmentation, and the darker your skin is. So it's important to have a tinted sunscreen as well.
Okay.
Interesting. And then what about like vitamins? Like I remember when I was in the throes of it and like not really eating, my doctor was like, the bare minimum is you have to take a multivitamin every day so that you're at least getting some vitamins.
Well, we mentioned before, you can't underestimate the influence of the immune system and keeping it easy on your body to be in homeostatic balance. Yeah, sure. You want to have a good diet. You don't want to carb load. You don't want to just crash diet. Crash diets, by the way, is another thing that causes telogen fluid. I see people who go on GLP-1, the injections to lose weight. You lose 20 pounds in a month.
Is that like the Wegovy?
Yeah.
The like Wegovy thing? Okay.
Yeah. They call it GLP-1 type of GLP-1 type of medicines. And you can lose that much weight, even though it's good if you're overweight. If you lose that much weight quickly, that can still cause.
I lost about when Aiden died, I think I lost 10 pounds in 8 days, and I'm sure that also it's just really bad for your body. Is what I'm hearing, that this sudden traumatic shock is really bad for your body. Your body needs time to adjust and needs time to like make big changes slowly. It doesn't like it when you do things fast.
Just like our minds. Our minds, same way.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more. Okay, here, I have a question. I felt like because I was crying all the time, that was also doing things to my skin, to my face, like to the muscles in my face. Like my face was used to smiling or like being a normal face. And now I felt like my face was like in a different, it's like I didn't recognize myself. Like I actually didn't like recognize my face shape. And I'm wondering if that also affects like your skin and
the wrinkles,
and your like to have your face in a different.
Good question, Judith. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think so. I don't know of any studies that show that.
I swear I thought that. Alina, did you think that because you were like crying all the time, that you were like making new wrinkles?
Well, so the crying, yes. But I think the thing that I noticed the most was I would sleep and I would have nightmares, and I would wake up with like, because I would be like in my sleep grimacing, like my with my eyebrows down. I'm like doing a face that you guys can't see on the podcast, and I would wake up and I would notice like the 11s, the wrinkles between my eyebrows, because I was in my sleep like with my brow furrowed. And I don't do that anymore. And those wrinkles weren't permanent, but I could imagine if I continued to have nightmares and didn't treat the underlying trauma that was causing the nightmares, that I could have developed a wrinkle there early.
Oh, or you could just come to us for botulinum toxin.
Okay, no, I went. I did. I told you I went to the doctor to do that, and the doctor
for Botox,
and the doctor told me that I was unusual because I didn't have 11s. I only had the wrinkle across my forehead. Is that true that the 11s are usually first, and it's unusual to start with the wrinkle across your forehead?
Everyone ages differently, and if you just have to know where to put the botulinum toxin, so it's not a problem.
Well, I told you, he told me I have a bad face for it, so I never went back.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I've never heard that, but I'm sure if you really wanted botulinum toxin, it wouldn't be a problem, Judith. You just have to go where the muscles create the lines.
He told me that it's gonna make me like this, like it's gonna put your eyebrow down, and I'm gonna look angry the whole time. That's what he told me.
No, I don't think that.
Okay, well, I'll go to you. We'll figure it out. But he told me that. So I want to hear about the wrinkles. So why do the wrinkles happen? And what can we do about them aside from the Botox?
Well, wrinkles happen. One way of getting wrinkles is constantly using those lines. So people frown a lot will get more wrinkles, deep wrinkles. People raise their forehead, and people squint a lot in the sun. We get crow's feet. But sun damage also plays a role. There's environmental toxins. There's a whole bunch of things that play a role, as well as normal aging. But all of it combines together in an individual, depending on their levels of exposure of each. But certainly, all of a sudden doing this a lot will have more of a tendency to it. When you think about it too, side sleepers over the years, if people sleep on their side over the years, will have more indented cheeks over time, because sleeping on your side, especially if you're hard on your side, as you get older, not when you're your guys' age, you get to my age, you'll have sallowness in the cheeks because of all the constantness over the years and years of sleeping. And as you age, gravity brings things down, and your muscles aren't as strong, so you can't combat as much. So you get laxity in the skin or looseness in the skin as particularly on one side more the other, or both sides.
I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
Okay, here's another question. I remember when I first saw a picture of Alina, her skin was gray.
Gray. I was going to ask the same question.
Gray.
And let me frame this for you for a second, because I think it's possible that and it's not just me. I've seen this on people whose children die. There's like just a lackluster, like a grayness. You know how people say
it's gray.
You know how when you say, oh, they're glowing, it's like whatever the opposite of that is, like the lights out, but they do look gray.
So probably pallor. We would call the word pallor, Pallor.
Okay, pallor.
What is that?
Is that actually a medical thing happening, or is that just like the lights are out in my brain and there's no one home and you see it coming through my eyes and we kind of just internalize that?
Oh, that's the body. It's the body's interpretation of stress, in terms of you lose blood flow to the face and you're in a state of shock. You can have pallor.
There's less blood flow to the face?
Well, that's what pallor is. You're all of a sudden
I did not know that.
When something happens to you that you don't expect and it's really bad,
yeah,
the face turns white.
Oh, that's true.
And that's what I'm trying to say. It's like white. It's not gray. It's white.
Right. Yes.
But you can't be gray. You're not like, you're not
like an alien.
Like an alien, a gray alien. But the face gets, blood flow stops the face because that doesn't stop. But the blood vessels constrict in the face. And
why?
Fascinating.
It's just the immune system response. It's the nervous system response to the way when people get something shocking happens, it's a fight or flight response. I don't know what it is. I'm not that type of doctor, but blood vessels constrict in the face, they constrict, and you have pallor.
So what you're saying is when we see newly bereaved people and they look gray, if you are newly bereaved and you look in the mirror and you feel like your pallor is pale and you look grayish white to yourself, that's actually probably true. You're not making it up.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So a lot of people in our community, they wind up having back-to-back pregnancies because they have a pregnancy, they lose the baby, and then they're kind of desperate to have another baby. And I'm aware, everybody's aware that back-to-back pregnancy is not super great on the body. Is there anything that people should be keeping an eye out for? Talk to me about the stress of that, the back-to-back pregnancies on the body.
I think you're out of my field a little bit, but I know pregnancy is a stress on the body itself.
Yeah.
And you guys know that personally.
I just even mean hair, skin, nails. Like I feel like my nails were brittle eventually. Yes. Like my hair all fell out.
Also, my hair, because when I was pregnant, my hair was thick and then it fell out really fast and then it was growing in really thick again because I was pregnant again. It was like my hair was very funny for a long time.
Well, thing of pregnancy, this is I don't know if it's a great analogy, but it's sort of in a way like it does to your immune system what a chronic disease does.
Yeah, I believe it. You have like a parasite, basically.
Right, because it's taking away from your normal immune system's ability to take care of self.
Yes.
You're taking care of another individual. So pregnancy is tough on the body. I don't know how women do it personally. It's very difficult and it can age you and things happen. And it's a hard process. I don't know, back to back, I think it'd just be like two of the same.
Yeah.
Stressors on the body.
Plus the grief thrown in the mix.
Not helping.
So anyway, again, listeners, you're not alone if you're looking in the mirror and you're feeling like you look rough.
This has been very validating.
I agree.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm not saying not to get pregnant. It's great. It's a beautiful thing. That's not my...
Oh, no one thinks that.
No. No one would think that. We're all thinking...
No one thinks that.
But I think for women to do pregnancy, I don't think men could do it. It's very, very hard on the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree. It is. And it's even harder when you're doing it back to back and you're like traumatized to begin with. It's not ideal at all. But I do find this conversation really validating because I think that in my head, I saw someone who looked really sad and it's just someone who looked empty. And I thought it was in my head. And there's something really validating, I think, to hear like, no, there's scientific reason for this. And there's a second thing that I think that's really validating, which is that your body, like you think this is like emotional, so it's like matters of your heart or your head, but like your body, it takes a toll on your physical body. The grief is so intense. It's so real that it takes a toll on your body. This is not something that can just be experienced in your heart. It's like a full body. Grief is like a full body experience. There's nothing that can escape it.
Yeah.
No, we're right. No, it's our immune system's doing this. It's like having a chronic illness. We're doing this. Our immune system is doing this. What we're experiencing is creating like an illness to our immune system, chronic illness, and that's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So with time, you heal, right? Let's say with time, with therapy, with whatever, you're healing, you're healing, you're healing. Um, is as your body is healing, it's like we said with the hair, some of this goes back. At what point can you say, okay, this is just where I am now? How long does it take to return to that homeostasis point? And at that point, like when would you suggest people come in if they wanted to get Botox or they want to do treatment? Would you say wait until you're done with this acute grief, come in immediately? Like what would you advise to somebody who's going through this?
I would advise that I want to make them feel better. If it takes botulinum toxin to help them right then and there, I will do it right then and there. I mean, whenever the person's ready, if that can help them overcome the experience, I'm all for it. Whatever I can do. I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist. I don't know anything about that. But if the person thinks botulinum toxin or filler will help them, or microneedling or anything we do in the office, by all means, I'm for it.
That's interesting about filler because I never looked into that. So tell me, like, in what case would you recommend like being all the things we spoke about and the symptoms that you experience? Like, how would filler be helpful to someone who's going through this?
As you age, filler becomes more important because you lose volume in your face, like I said, and gravity brings things down, and you can get sunken cheeks, like I have from sleeping on my side. So it's not as, for people your age, filler is not as commonly done as botulinum toxin. But
remember that we are in our 30s with an extra 15 years of grief on top.
However, no, I want to say where I have done filler in people your guys' age, which is pretty common, under eyes. Because people feel like their eyes get sunken in from stress or aging or sun damage, whatever it is. And that's a common place I put filler. Also, people feel like...
I didn't. That's fascinating. So does it help with like those under eye bags? Like I felt like my eyes were really puffy from all the crying. I didn't.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't take the bags away, but bags are swelling. So if you put filler underneath the bags, think about that. It creates the illusion that there are no bags because it smooths it out.
Oh.
So you fill the space below.
Interesting.
And that sort of hides the bag. So the filler lasts 9 to 12 months. It's not permanent, but it looks much more smooth under there. And that's what we do.
That's fascinating. Okay, another question, since this is a community that is pregnant or was pregnant, whatever, what myths about Botox and pregnancy and what you can and cannot do? Because I thought you could not do Botox while you're pregnant.
Right. So that's a controversial issue. I have no problem giving someone Botox in pregnancy. Filler's a different story. We're not use filler. But
why? Why?
Filler, it's for some reason people aren't, the evidence is not there that it's safe during pregnancy. I mean, filler doesn't go anywhere beyond the skin, but it stays there. And whereas Botox is eventually metabolized, I mean, filler stays for 9 to 12 months. Stays for 9 to 12 months before it goes away, but Botox goes in the muscle and the muscle is relaxed. The Botox is gone within a day or two. The muscle has the effects for 3 to 4 months from botulinum toxin. The filler stays there. So I think people are more afraid of pregnancy and nursing with filler. And there's been some reported bad reactions, maybe delayed some nodules and women who are nursing are pregnant. It's very rare, don't get me wrong. But botulinum toxin doesn't really have that. So I would still check with the patient's OB to get permission before I gave botulinum toxin. But there's a lot more, it's okay to give botulinum toxin during pregnancy and when someone's nursing than filler.
Fascinating.
I did not know that. I learned a lot from you today.
I'm glad I could help.
This is very interesting.
So much. And I have to say, I looked at all the questions we got and we've covered all of them. But just to give you a sense, Dr. Green, of the things people are asking, I read somewhere that grief ages you. How is this possible? Can stress or grief cause gray hair? I swear grief has made my face into a permanent scowl. How can I undo it? So like these are the things that it's so funny because I know it feels a little silly and a little self-absorbed to like care what you look like. And I almost feel like that's actually a stage of healing to get to the point where you realize you kind of care again what you look like. But like looking in the mirror is important, and not hating what you see in the mirror and recognizing yourself in the mirror is really important. And there were times where I looked at myself and I had lost like 30 pounds. My hair was receding because I had no hair. My skin was the aforementioned gray. I had these extra wrinkles that thankfully I didn't retain, but like it's really hard. And if this is something that you can do to take care of yourself, you should do it.
By all means.
and don't feel bad about it. Like,
well, actually, I want to say that don't feel bad. I want to just echo that because I remember when a couple years ago, when I colored my hair for the first time after Aiden died. I colored my hair for the first time my entire life, a year after Aiden died. And I remember I posted something on Instagram about it, and we got so many comments. Like hundreds of people were commenting on the fact that they were afraid to go to the hairstylist to get their hair dyed because they were afraid the stylist was going to ask questions. Like they were afraid that the person would be like, "Why are you here?" And they would have to say like, well, my child died and so now my hair is gray.
Or they might even say, the hairstylist might say, it looks like you went all of a sudden very gray. What happened?
What happened? So Dr. Green, from your perspective, like, have you had patients come in? What would you tell to someone who's like, okay, I want to go to the dermatologist, but like, I'm afraid that I'm going to have to go into the whole story and it's going to be very hard to recount everything that's going on. And I'm, like embarrassed that I'm in this state, or not even embarrassed, just like, it's hard. It's hard. It's vulnerable to go and look into me. Like, what would you say to someone who's at home thinking about that?
So first of all, like you said, Alina, I think it's important for people to help them feel better about themselves is to look themselves in the mirror and feel better about themselves. That helps with the getting over process. So important. And if we can help with that, that's great. But to be honest with you, as a dermatologist, we want you to look and feel better. We don't care what brings you to the office. There are a million reasons why people come to the office. Grief is one of them, but there's a million other reasons. If you want to tell us, great. We're happy to talk. That's our job. But if you don't want to tell us, we just want you to feel better about yourself and do it. We're not going to ask. It's not going to happen. We're not even going to think about it. I don't think about that when someone comes in for whatever reason.
Can you talk to my dental hygienist and tell her to not ask so many questions about how many
I
children?
think you're unusual because I feel like when I go to these doctors, they're always like, "What brings you in today?" And then you're like, "Oh, okay," and then you tell the story, and then it just becomes, it becomes a thing, and you're like in this room, and
right. So I'll say that too. What brings you in today? You can say, "Well, my frown lines are bothering me." That's I'd like to consider botulinum toxin. It's a much more. We're asking. We want a targeted answer. We're not looking for the whole story necessarily.
That's funny. Because when I went and I did the Botox thing, the guy did ask, and then I was like saying about how I was like, I look in the mirror and I see this wrinkle across my forehead, and I see that my son died. I was like, that's what I do. I look in the mirror and I see my son died, and then, he started crying and it became a whole thing. And then, I got the Botox and he told me my face was bad. So it was like all these things happening at once. I haven't been back. But I do think for some people, it's good to hear, like, the doctors don't care. They don't really want to talk about what brings you in other than what is the problem that you're trying to solve. They don't want to hear it.
No.
They probably have 12 minutes for your appointment anyway. And
no, but if the person wants to talk, that's fine. But there's no obligation. Our job is to make you feel better about yourself as a dermatologist, and that's it.
And quite frankly, from what you've said, quite frankly, it sounds like even just saying I've had chronic stress in my life tells you what you need to know lifestyle wise in order for treatment, right? Like it sounds like there's not like anything different you would do for someone who's grieving as opposed to somebody who's has other chronic stress.
As a dermatologist, we don't. I can't think of if you're going to see a psychologist. I think you have to get more in depth,
right?
But for the dermatologist, no, we just want you to feel like I said.
Yeah, and also please do go see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, listeners. But also feel free to see the dermatologist.
Don't think of worse. We're not doing psychiatry.
But don't see your dermatologist for therapy.
And don't see a therapist for your Botox because it won't go well.
Correct.
But I will say I went to the ophthalmologist a couple months after Aiden died because my vision had gotten significantly worse because of the stress. My vision had got worse here. I know that this is not interesting, but let me tell you something. This is why I went to the doctor. My vision had gotten worse, so I had to get new glasses. I was grinding my teeth at night, so I had to get night guards because my teeth had already eroded. I was like, I went to every single doctor. I had to go to OBs. I had to go to general doctors. It takes a full effect on your body. I didn't go to a dermatologist because I didn't know where to go.
I had to go to pelvic floor physical therapy, not because of the birth, but because after the loss, I was clenching.
Yes.
Like I had to go to pelvic floor physical therapy for the grief trauma
So
response.
The body, it's like a full body experience.
Right.
And I wish I would have known to go to a dermatologist, and I wish I would have known that this is something they could do to help me because I just thought I was powerless. I thought my son died and now my hair is going to be great forever. And like, I didn't know. So guys, this is your PSA. You can find Dr. Green on Instagram, or you could go to your local dermatologist. And if you live in the DC area, I'm happy to connect you guys.
Your local board certified dermatologist.
Yes.
Are there non-board certified dermatologists?
Not many. They shouldn't be practicing in my opinion. You want to be board certified means you get tests, you do your testing, and we have to retake testing, as we go on every 10 years, you have to get recertified. So no, very important. But at least the initial board certification is the most important, I would say, because that means you finished residency and
you're legit.
You're legit.
You're not an Instagrammer out there just shilling biotin for thousands of dollars.
Correct. There are people on Instagram and anywhere who call themselves dermatologists.
That are not doctors?
They may not be doctors. They may be internal medicine doctors. When you say board certified dermatologist, it means you're a real dermatologist because you've taken the certification exam and done the residency. You can't do it any other way. So someone just saying they're a dermatologist is not the same. So you want to say board certified.
Dermatology is interesting because what I heard you say is we just want to make you feel better about yourself. I don't think most doctors, that's a very unique job. Most doctors are not like, we want to make you feel good about yourself.
Well, that's dermatology.
But yeah, it's an interesting field. I assume plastic surgeons also similarly have that mentality. We just want to make you feel good about yourself. What a luxury.
And Judith, one thing also we can do for people who clench and have clench their jaws, you can put botulinum toxin in the jaw. And it relaxes the muscle so you can't clench.
I have heard of that.
That would have been so smart.
I've actually heard that's very effective.
Yeah, works really well. I mean, it only lasts 3 or 4 months.
For headaches and for clenching. Yeah.
That would have been incredibly helpful. Instead, I got a night guard that I never use.
Yeah, so listen up to that. If you are clenching your teeth at night, go see your local board certified dermatologist for, I'm going to say botulinum toxin instead of saying Botox, which is what we've been saying this whole time.
Well, Botox is a brand name. There are many different kinds of Botox. So I just want to...
You have to be careful about that. We don't have to be careful about that.
There's another one that I see. I don't remember. What's it called? What's the other one that's popular?
Well, there's Botox, there's Daxxify. Those are 2 I most commonly use. There's also Xeomin, Juvederm.
That one, Xeomin. That's what I got.
And there's Dysport. Yeah, they're all different.
Oh, they're different?
Yeah, well, they're the same, but they're different. I mean, I don't prefer Xeomin. I have my own reasons. I'm not going to get into on here.
Yeah.
But
I'll find out on your TikTok.
I usually try not to be controversial. I want to get good education.
All right, well, that's good to know. I trust your opinion if you say that. Thank you so much.
Anything else, Dr. Green, that you want to share with our listeners about anything? I know this is probably 1% of your job, but this is I
think it's probably less than 1% of your job. But I will say, when I brought it up to you, you did not seem surprised at all. And you actually expressed it in your own personal life that there have been people who'd been experiencing loss that had been, asking you questions. So it's clearly I'm not the only one. This is a phenomenon that's somewhat familiar to you.
No, unfortunately, grief is common. I mean, losing a child is not the only way to experience grief. And it's a sad world we live in. There's good things and bad things. It's just part of his life, unfortunately. And the body has to adapt and adjust no matter what the cause of grief is. So you're never alone, and everyone's here to help. That's why we're alive, and to help people. And let's take advantage, I think, instead of crawling, under a rock and try and take advantage of people around you.
There's people out there that you can go see who will help you with this one little sliver of what's going on for you. Maybe you can feel better about yourself when you look in the mirror. Add a dermatologist to your care team. You got your therapist, you've got your grief class, you've got your dermatologist.
Thank you so much for Dr. Green for being on the podcast and for sharing your knowledge with us.
This was the best.
Very fun.
People will find you at TikTok, and they can find you on Instagram. And do you have anything else? What do you have a website for your thing?
And Facebook too. Facebook's all the same. dr.lawrencgreen.com. Dr.lawrencgreen.com. Our website is aestheticanddermatologymd.com.
All right. I will link those in the description.
You're going to have a whole parade of very sad moms.
Anyone can message me on the social media, especially Instagram. I answer that much quicker than Facebook and TikTok. Any questions, if I can help. I mean, I can't answer specific questions without seeing someone in the office, but general questions, I'm always happy to help.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
To all of our wonderful new friends, we want to hear from you. Email us at aslongasimlivingpodcast@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at aslongasimlivingpodcast. We'll get back to you as soon as our grieving brains allow.
Yay!